Hey guys, Todd from COSN coming at you again today. Hey, today I want to do a really quick video on what arrows I use and kind of how to select arrows, and also get into conversation about is aluminum better than carbon in a survival situation. So I want to go ahead and get into this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. Alright guys, so the very first thing to consider about arrows, and again, I'm not an expert, but I am an enthusiast. So when I get into the technical aspect of this, I'm not going to get down into the weeds and confuse you guys, because sometimes getting into spine can get a little confusing because there's a lot of different options and things to look at. So I'm going to try to keep this simple and to the point. So very first thing to consider is you got to determine your draw length, and we're going to start from the beginning. Most commonly, people will take and they'll spread their arms and have somebody measure from your middle finger to your middle finger, and you're going to divide by 2.5, and that'll give you a rough draw. Now you can also go into bow shops and get that done. They have what you can pull, and it'll actually show your draw length. But if you're not close to a store, you just want to do it at home, you can actually measure from fingertip to fingertip and divide by 2.5. So once you get that determined, that's going to determine also your arrow length. Now it's suggested that you go from your draw length and add 1 to 2 inches, and that will be your arrow length. Sometimes I just shoot 31s just to shoot 31s. Sometimes I'll drop mine down to 28. It just depends. My draw length is anywhere from 26 to 27 roughly. So, and I also usually round up, so 27-inch draw length, which everybody is different. Shorter arms, longer arms. I know some people have a 30-inch draw length. So that's also going to go into when we get into arrow spine. So basically the second thing is determining the actual your bow weight. So it's not just what's written on the side of the bow. Like just for instance, the PGU at 28 inches, it's 55 pounds. Now at my draw, and if you see my videos, I've actually took a scale and I figured out at what different inches what it's pulling. But you can actually kind of roughly take about 2 to 3 pounds off per inch. So, but what I did is I actually scaled this one, and I'm pulling about 53 pounds instead of 55 at 27 inches, which is, it's pretty well dead on. So once you determine that, and it's going to be different for a compound. Now compound has a lot of different factors figuring that out, because you have your release, you have basically your let off, it could be 60 to 80% let off, and so there's a lot of things that go into a compound bow. Your cam design, I mean, there's a ton of different things. Most of the time you can find a scale on that type of bow online from the manufacturer. So you can do that, or if you change things out, you can also go down to your local professional shop and figure that out on a compound. But we're talking about recurve, so we're going to stick with that. All right, so once you get your weight, so mine's 53, and you're going to basically look, and what we're talking about here is finding the right arrow. And by saying finding the right arrow, we're talking about getting the right spine for you and your bow, okay? And when we're talking about spine, that's basically measure of deflection. So it basically means how much does the arrow bend, okay? And we're talking about spine, okay? And that is going to differ for each person, and it can even differ for each bow. So you have to tailor the arrows to the bow. And the reason why I'm getting into this is just kind of giving you a background of why I pick the arrows that I do. And I'll get into a couple different brands as well. All right, so we're talking about the spine, and I'm going to put a couple charts. Now you can go to the manufacturer, and sometimes the manufacturer will have those certain charts down in their website. There's generic charts that you can get just in case if you can't find a manufacturer's chart or so forth and so on. It's almost like a bullet chart. So once you get your arrow length, your peak pounds, then you get your tip weight. So your tip weight is most typically people use 125 grain tips, but not always. A lot of people like to plus that tip up and get more kinetic energy out of their arrows. Might travel slower, but they're going to get more kinetic energy. So with that being said, you take those factors, you go to those charts, you can pull them up on this link, and I can show you a few pictures of the charts here, and you find out what your spine is going to be for your factors. Okay. Now, for instance, with the PGU, my actual spine is going to be 0.500, and on these, I've actually got a couple different kinds because I have some here for the compound. But typically shooting a 400 spine out of the PGU, and it's pretty effective. A lot of people say, you know, shooting out a compound, you know, they don't get much variance by shooting target tips. Put a broadhead on there, it's going to change that dramatically. All the experience that I have in forums, you know, that's what's going to be the deciding factor, because it changes with your twist of your arrow on your fletching. So again, I'm not an expert on this stuff. It's just stuff that I've learned over the years, and I wanted to kind of go over kind of choosing the arrow for you and your bow, okay? So with that being said, getting into the debate of the aluminum versus carbon, okay? It's a huge debate, and the biggest thing that I always remember, and funny that somebody said that, is, you know, a carbon arrow is straight or it's shattered. An aluminum arrow is either straight or bent. So, and I know there's people that use aluminum arrows. I still have some aluminum arrows. These are actually logs. They do weigh heavier than your carbon arrows, and of course you're gonna get more kinetic energy, but a little bit less, you know, feet per second. A lot of people still use aluminum arrows. They've been around for a super long time. Carbon arrows have been around since about the 80s. They do have a lot of things you can do with a carbon arrow. You can do heavier inserts. You can plus up the poundage to get more kinetic energy. You get them all shapes, sizes. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with carbon arrows. Aluminum, you can do a lot of stuff too, but I think carbon, in my opinion, has gotten so popular, they just have a ton of options on the carbon arrow. Aluminum arrows versus the carbon, you know, I prefer carbon. The biggest reason why I prefer carbon is because, in my opinion, and all the experience that I have, and, you know, on forums and stuff, they're just more durable. You know, I could step on this arrow, I could beat this arrow up, and it's not, if it doesn't break or splinter, the arrow's still good. With an aluminum arrow, if I step on it, if I turn real quick and I have it knocked and I hit it against a tree, you know, there's potential to bend it. I know they don't bend always that easy. I used to use these on 3D shoots when I was a kid, and I can't remember how many I came back with, you know, skipping off trees and actually bending these arrows. But I'm not going to say which one's better. That's for you to decide. I think it really is off of personal preference, but I do prefer the carbon arrows to answer the questions that were asked. You know, what arrows do I use? I use carbon arrows, usually use a V-Force or a gold tip, you know, a higher end arrow. So anyway, I hope that answers your guys' questions. I really appreciate you guys watching my channel. All your support is great. I really appreciate it. Hey, you guys take care, and I'll talk at you later.